What's up, everyone? Welcome to PS This Is Awesome. This is episode 416. I am your master of ceremonies today, Jake Peters. I am doing another solo episode. Fred is still on hiatus, so take that as it may, but I think we'll be able to get by just fine. I'm going to do something a little bit differently today. Rather than kind of talk about a bunch of news and stuff, I might gloss over a couple things. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little bit of a dive into the games that are coming out in 2026 and talk a little bit about what I'm interested in, what I might want to play, what I have played maybe, and we'll go from there. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about the podcast itself. We have a Patreon. It is, I think it's psthisisawesome.patreon.com, I want to say. Let me check here. Patreon.com/psthisisawesome. We have a subscription tier called the One and Only $1 Club. It is just $1 a month, and if you sign up for that, you get the podcast a few days early, and you get a vinyl sticker, and we'll give you a shout out on the show. You can also email us at psthisisawesome@gmail.com. I am not looking at the email while I'm doing this podcast by myself. So if you have emailed us, not saying that anyone has, but if you have emailed us and I haven't mentioned it, I apologize. We will get to that at some point here, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, feel free to support us on Patreon if you want. If you don't, that's fine too. You can watch us on YouTube. You can watch us or listen to us on, I think, Spotify and whatever. You get wherever you want, I guess you could probably watch to us. So anyway, with that out of the way, Fred always asks how I'm doing. And today I'm going to say that I am doing fine. Just like every other week when we do this episode, I'm doing just okay. The weather is actually quite nice here today. It's around 65 to 68 to 69 to 70, somewhere in that range, degrees outside. We got some sun going on, and the only thing downside is it's a little bit on the windy side. We had a windstorm here on Friday, which was pretty interesting. It was actually kind of scary, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know. There was one time, right when we moved into our house here, that I actually was present for a tornado. They don't happen very often in this area, but I was present for a tornado that would have been in November, I guess, 9 years ago. And it didn't actually come like right next to my house, but it passed by about 5 miles north of us. So there was a tornado in the area, and it was psychotic here. I mean, the shit was just ripping off of houses. The wind was absolutely insane. This windstorm we had on Friday was the closest that I've experienced to that experience since that happened. And it was pretty crazy. I mean, we had pretty gnarly winds. When I got home from work, there were just big branches down, like there were branches down in our driveway because we have trees on the property that I had to clean up. Thankfully, no vehicles were hit or anything like that. But we always worry about around here because we have suspended power. We live in rural Pennsylvania, so we have suspended power lines everywhere. Nothing is underground wherever we're at. And it tends to mean that when you have a lot of wind, power lines will sway around, trees will fall on power lines, things like that, and you get a lot of power outages. Well, it was about, I don't know, maybe 6:30 or so. We had the power flicker, but it didn't go out. And I actually had a hockey game on Friday night. Our first time playing in my league since I had my concussion. It's a playoff game, single elimination, so I definitely wanted to go, even though it meant that I was going to have to drive in this. So we drove to Meadville, which is about a half an hour drive, for me to play in this tournament, this hockey game. And it didn't seem too bad while we were driving. I was a little bit nervous because people who have listened to the podcast for a while will know that last summer, not this past summer, the summer before that, I'm pretty sure, I was driving home from work and a storm blew through as I was driving home, and the wind broke a branch off of a tree and it went through my windshield as I was driving, like literally straight in front of my face. And so I'm always a little bit skeeved out about driving during windstorms ever since that happened. It's like some Final Destination shit. Like I'm just not like waiting for a tree to fall on my vehicle as I'm driving down the road. And because of where we live, unless you're driving by farm fields, all of the roads are tree lined. So it's very possible that this could happen. Maybe not necessarily fall directly on your vehicle, but you might be driving and all of a sudden there's a tree across the road in front of you. It happens all the time. And so we were driving to hockey on Friday. My wife went with me. And I was the whole time I'm driving, I'm like kind of looking, I'm looking, and nothing. There wasn't any issues. I'm always interested too, like when you go through intersections and you see like the traffic lights and they're just fucking swinging, flying back and forth. You think like, how are these things gotta blow off of these lines and kill somebody? But they never do. They must be on there really, I guess they're on there pretty well. But I was able to get to the rink, no problem. But as we were getting dressed before the game to get on the ice, the power went out briefly and then came back on. The lights came back on. And everyone's just like, oh my God, like, hopefully they don't cancel my game. And here I'm thinking, like, what if we're like, I'm skating down the ice at full speed and the fucking lights go out? That would be really, really dangerous. So I was glad to report nothing of the sort happened while we were playing. We ended up winning the game, which is great. And we're going on to the championship, which is awesome. But we drove home afterwards. Didn't have any. The wind was a little crazier coming home. The traffic lights were doing their thing. The road signs were whipping all over the place. Got home, chilled out for a bit, went to bed, and I actually was having a little bit of trouble falling asleep because our bedroom is on the northwest corner of the house, and that is the side of the house that gets all of the wind. And so you could just hear just a constant like, because the wind is just blowing so hard. And you could hear the power lines connect to the house right outside of our bedroom. And you can hear them like whipping against the house and stuff because of how hard the wind is blowing. And I keep thinking like, what if one of these power lines breaks and catches my house on fire? This is like a total Fred thought of like something Fred thinks would happen. And I'm like laying in bed, I'm like, what if my house catches on fire? And then I'm like looking at my phone because I have a security system in my house, and I can actually look in my security system the battery level of all of my smoke alarms and all this kind of shit. And I'm like looking at it thinking like, I hope all my smoke alarms are good because if my house catches on fire because the fucking electrical line gets blown off or something. And I ended up being able to fall asleep. It was not a problem, but it was just kind of an interesting day. Yesterday, not too bad. Cold. It was like 35 degrees ish, but it wasn't too windy. Beautiful sunny day. Was able to go outside a little bit today. I'm kind of hoping, I don't know if I'll get a chance to, I'm kind of hoping maybe after we record this podcast that I will go outside for a little bit, maybe pick up some sticks or something of the sort. But it's still very Pennsylvania spring, quite muddy outside. And it's still only the middle of March. We got another month before we're in the clear on weather around here. And when I say in the clear, I mean it's probably not going to snow anymore. Because it's not uncommon for us to get snow in the early April. But as long as the grass doesn't start growing yet, I'll be excited. Because I am not ready to... The beginning of the year is always the worst for cutting grass because you have to battle all of the wet in the yard. And I can't use my good mower. I have to use like my shitty mower because my good mower is really heavy and it'll get stuck and blah, 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 blah. So I don't know why I'm talking about this. It's too early to be talking about cutting grass. But these things are inevitable. Time never stops. We're headed towards spring. And what can I say? That's where I'm at with it. So we're 10 minutes into the podcast. I've talked about windstorms and hockey and mowing grass. and that's about it. So why don't we jump into the show? We're going to start by talking. We have a listener inquiry today from our boy Big Box, who says, "What did you do to Fred?" And then he comments on here. I'm trying to get my Zoom to work. He comments on Marathon saying, biggest issue with Marathon is that you 100% run into players way higher skilled than you, but unlike Overwatch, when you respawn in 10 seconds and can switch to a counter character, they fucked up the loadout. It took you 45 minutes to... Oh, they fuck up the loadout. It took you 45 minutes to procure. Feels crazy punishing low-skilled players such as myself. So, Big Box, I can't... First of all, what did I do to Fred? I told him I wanted to host the podcast and said that he's a weenie and I hurt his feelings, and so he decided not to come back. No, that's not the case. Fred will be back whenever he wants to come back, and it's his story to tell if he decides to tell you why he has not been on the show, and we'll just leave it at that. But I have faith that he will be back at some point here soon. He just needs some time. So anyway, talking about Marathon. Marathon is interesting because I sort of understand what you're saying, but the fact that you are comparing it to Overwatch, I think, is, I don't want to say an incorrect assessment. I think that it is viewing the game through the incorrect lens. And I'm not saying this as somebody who knows anything about Overwatch or extraction shooters. I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of someone who looks at these games externally, because I don't play these types of games. And I understand this because I want to judge the game exactly the same way you're judging it. I want it to be a Bungie game that I can just jump in and play. I want it to not be an extraction shooter where it's fucking me over every single time I die. I want it to be a more pleasant experience to play and not so sweaty of a thing, because Bungie games look and feel so awesome and their stories are always really good. But I don't know that I can jive with that on the... I don't know if I can jive with the extraction component to it. Now, I can't remember if it was LJ and I talking about this. Maybe it was me talking about it before, or maybe even way back when Fred was on board. But I feel like there's a way for them to institute... Maybe I was talking to someone at work about this. I think there's a way that they can institute a PvE mode to this game where maybe the extraction component is still there, but there's no PvP component. And I think that would be... It's one of these things where, like, personally, I'm like, they should do it like Diablo 2 back in the day. For those of you who never played Diablo 2 back in the day, there was single player, there was multiplayer, or there was BattleNet, and then there was open BattleNet. So there were three modes of that game that you can play. And what it boiled down to was single player is obvious. You can play the game by yourself, do whatever you want, mod the fucking game, hack the shit out of it, do whatever you want. It's just a single player game you can play by yourself. Great. Then there was BattleNet, which was the online version of the game meant to be multiplayer. You play with other people. All of your gear and everything could only be in that server with your multiplayer instance of the game. Like, there was no crossover between your single player build and your BattleNet build. You had to make a character in BattleNet and only use it in BattleNet. You could not use it in single player. So then there was this third category called Open BattleNet, which allowed you to use your single player characters online on BattleNet. So they had this interesting kind of solution for people who just wanted to run just crazy characters, do crazy shit in the game, but they also had this sort of walled garden kind of multiplayer version where you could do the competitive stuff, and I don't remember if they had ladders back then, but it could be more of like a laddered kind of approach where everybody is on the same wavelength as far as difficulty and leveling and all that kind of stuff. So when I think about that, I think about Marathon, and I'm like, why can't you can have the extraction mode, the super sweaty mode, the ranked mode, the laddered mode, all of that stuff. And maybe they are going to do sort of like Arc Raiders did, where they start sort of filtering the matchmaking based on skill level. I don't know if there's any real... There's a lot of motorcycles going by because it's nice out, which I think is psychotic because there's still like debris and gravel all over the roads. But hey, more power to them. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Oh, they could have the regular marathon laddered ranked online extraction mode where it's exactly what you're talking about, but maybe they institute a ranking system so that the matchmaking is based on either your character's item level, because I think the items in Marathon have a rank similar to like the light level in Destiny. And maybe matches are based on that, or maybe matches are based on like kill to death ratio. Maybe I don't know. They could find a way to rank it so that they match make it a little bit better. And that's like the normal online mode. And then for people like me, and maybe even someone like you, Big Box, where you just want to enjoy the world, you like the way that it plays, you want to do maybe some of the extraction stuff, but you don't necessarily want to fight, do all this shit and then just have someone come shoot you in the back of the head and steal all your stuff. And I totally get that. And I think Arc Raiders is the same way. Like, why can't you just have a mode where there is just no PvP? Period. Yeah, it might break the game a little bit in terms of its original philosophy. But like I was talking about with the open BattleNet mode in Diablo 2, they put that in there anyway to just let players have fun. You just go ahead, break the fucking game. Who cares? Just have fun. And I think that there's, it generally in gaming now, there's this like hyper control that developers try to put on their product, and they don't want people to have fun anymore. That's obviously hyperbole, but they don't want people to break the game. And sometimes I think that they forget that especially in a single player environment, that's fun sometimes. You think about games like Final Fantasy Tactics, where there are builds in that game where you can build a character a certain way that the game is fucking broken. You're like unkillable. And sometimes it's fun. It's fun figuring that out. It's fun being able to break the game. Not everybody wants to play that way all the time. But like, I get so sick when you have these single player games. Again, I'm deviating a little bit, but it's sort of related. You have a single player game, and there's a gun in the single player game that is OP. And so so a lot of people are using that gun. And then the fucking developer comes in and nerfs that gun. And it's like, bro, no. Like, people want to use that because it's so good. Maybe instead of nerfing that gun, your update should either fix the other guns or add new guns that are more interesting in ways that make people want to use them other than the gun originally. So when it comes to Marathon, the thing that you have to worry about is if you're going to do this single player mode, you're going to let people kind of hack the game, as it were, a little bit, because they're able to do the extractions without having to worry about other players killing them, hence probably having a higher success rate, blah, blah, blah. You can't let those people use those characters in ranked matches. You just can't. So, and I'm okay with that. Just have the two different fucking modes. It's fine. Make a character make a new build in a ranked mode. Make a character make a new build for a single player or like an unranked kind of whatever version of the game. And there's no reason why they can't do this because they're doing seasonal wipes. So seasonally, all of your character's shit gets wiped away anyway, and you're starting from scratch. So it's not like you've got to worry about like, well, I put all this work in the single player mode, and I don't want to have to do all that work again in the multiplayer mode to play. It's like, no. In multiplayer, shit's getting wiped every season anyway. So the part of that game is doing the work over and over again and being competitive with other players in PvP. So in the 2 matches I played of Marathon, I fought, a bunch of the robot enemies. And the way that the gunplay feels, the way that the ease of combat with the AI in the game totally led me to believe that they could have a single player component to this, or at least like a non-PvP component to it where you could go in with a squad. And the thing is too, is if they did that, they could have it scalable based on the number of people in your squad. If you want to go in by yourself and play it because you don't have any friends or you don't want to do matchmaking or whatever, they can make the enemies a little bit easier for when you're in there by yourself. And then when there's 3 of you, they make them a little bit harder. And I get that makes the game a little bit more difficult to tune, but bro, it would be so much more fun. And it would drag in people like me who I am not playing an extraction shooter. Not in the way that they are traditionally formatted. They are way too sweaty for me. I don't, exactly like you're saying, I do not like putting all of this work into getting stuff and then having it all ripped away from me. And I understand that is part of the game. That is why people like it, but it is not why I play video games. But I would be willing to play them if they had these additional modes. But this goes to the argument of like, there should be an easy mode in Dark Souls. And it's like, well, I get why they say they don't want to make it that way because that is not the game they want to make. And I understand why they don't want to make an easy mode in Dark Souls because that's not the game they want to make. But at the same time, I also think that there's no harm in attracting new players with these alternative modes. For example, talked about it on the podcast a little while ago, Lies of P instituted an easier mode, and a lot of people picked up the game because of it, myself included. I would not have played that game if I only had access to the hardest difficulty, which is the normal difficulty. And so I don't know. Something to be said. I hope that answers your question, Big Box. But it is interesting. And I know like part of his point, and maybe I didn't touch on this, is that he feels like he's being punished because he's lower skilled. And I think that will come out in the wash if they get their ranking system sorted out and they get their matchmaking sorted out. It's still the early days. The game is still learning how good everyone is. And if you played specifically in the open beta or server slam or whatever the hell they called it, it was probably non-existent in that version of the game. So do I know for sure they're going to have tiered matchmaking in the full release? I say, will they have it? Do they have it because the game is out? I'm not sure. But I would certainly hope that they would. I mean, they do something similar transparently, I think, in Arc Raiders. So why would they not do it in Marathon? But I still maintain that game looks awesome. And it feels awesome to play. And I'm very interested in it. But not extraction shooting, as it were. So, anyway, that's the only write-in we have for this week. I talk about games we're playing. I'm going to take a quick drink here. So, games that we're playing. I am nothing new. I'm still playing Resident Evil Requiem. I'm almost done with it. I think according to PSN, which we know how accurate that can be, I'm like 90% of the way through the story. So I'm probably within the last hour or two of the game. And I will say it's awesome. I really, really like it. There is a section, I don't want to say anything because it's kind of a major spoiler, but there is a section, we'll call it part 2 of the game, where there's an extended period, maybe a few hours, where I was kind of let down a little bit by what was going on and the gameplay and the environment that I was in. But that's not to say that it was bad. It's just that the first large portion of the game where you're switching back and forth between Grace and Leon in the hospital or the Road Hill Care Center or whatever it's called is so fucking good that when you jump out to this second section, which I would call a little bit more traditional Resident Evil 4 kind of gameplay, I was surprised that I was so much more excited. Specifically the Grace sections, I thought, which were more survival horror. They were just wonderful. And so I'm curious to see how the game ends up. But as of right now, I'm loving it. I have no idea what I've played so far this year. Let's see. PSN profiles. Let's see what I've played this year. Why are you doing this? Okay, go to trophies. All right, here we go. All right, so Resident Evil Requiem, Baldur's Gate 3, which I'll talk about in a second, Sons of Sparta, KCD 2, Outer Worlds 2, Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 was technically in December. So I'll say this. As of right now, my favorite experience of the year is Resident Evil Requiem that I've played on PlayStation. So take that as you will. I also have played, and I was surprised when I was talking to LJ last week. I was surprised to find out, just thinking about it, that I've played every mainline Resident Evil game except for 6. And I played the demo of 6, but it just wasn't for me. I may go back and play it at some point. We'll see. It was just very different from they were trying to be real commercial with it, and I think it kind of bounced off most people. So out of these handful of games, we've got Outer Worlds, Kingdom Come, which are both very big games, Sons of Sparta, which I've talked about extensively, Baldur's Gate 3, also a big game, but I'm playing it co-op, and Resident Evil Requiem. RE9 is my favorite game so far this year, but we'll see how it ends. Who knows? The ending might be fucking terrible, and I'll come back on this podcast next week and say I hate RE9, never play it. But based on everything that I've been reading online about what other people think of it, I highly doubt that's going to be the case. So next is Baldur's Gate 3, and I don't have any more to really say about this game right now. We're playing it very slowly, maybe 1 or 2 days a week. We're playing it. It's still very fun. I still really enjoy it. We're kind of hitting our stride with like our characters and what we're doing in the combat and stuff. I will say, like, sometimes the game does things that sort of annoy me. Like, for example, there is a character that we just got, and basically you get a character earlier in the game. You go to this druid town, you get a character, and he's like, I gotta go kill this fucking devil. And you're like, okay, that's cool, but it's like a character thing. And so we're doing like all of these other missions, and I'm like, I'll get to that character's quest line. Totally fine. We do like one of the main missions where we save like the druid area. And then I'm like, okay, now that we finished that main quest, it was a big one, let's go do some of the side stuff. So I go do this character quest. We go find this devil character. Turns out it's a character that you can, pick up. And sorry if this is spoiling the game a little bit. I'm trying to be vague, but I want to kind of express an annoyance that I have. So we pick the character up, and she's like, yo, I can't get close to you until someone fixes my heart, which is apparently on fire or something. I have no idea. We have to find this person. So I'm like, okay. Come to find out, that person is available only if you do that quest before you do the main quest that I already finished. Because I didn't do the main quest, because I did the main quest first, that character that I needed to find to fix this chick's heart is now gone. And that person is, I just was looking it up on my phone. That person is now no longer available until you get into the second act of the game. So now I have to waylay my relationship with this character for an extended period of time because this unforeseen consequence happened of me doing quests in a certain order. Now I get it. That's sort of the nature of this game. And I don't necessarily even think that they should do it any differently. I think that the game is what it is, and it's amazing for what it is. It's just frustrating as a player when these things happen because I'm like looking it up. I'm like, okay, let's go find this dude that can help this chick out because we want to develop a more rapport with this character, maybe do a little romance, and sorry, you can't. And honestly, if I hadn't looked it up, I'd have been running around this entire map, which is not small or easily traversable, by the way. I'd have been running around this entire map looking for this fucking guy, only to find out that he didn't exist in this area after I did that quest. So, a little bit frustrating here and there. But this is the type of game that I will use guides and stuff to help me get through parts of it. Because it's too deep, it's too dense. We're playing it casually because we're doing it together as something to do as a couple. So it's not really that big of a deal. But it kind of makes me want to now, when I get a new quest, almost look up like, hey, if I don't do this in a certain order, is it going to fuck me up at all? But that kind of ruins the game a little bit, I think, at least from the way that it's supposed to be played. So take that as you will. That said, I'm still really enjoying it. I don't know what else to say about it. So let's move on to sort of the main topic of the show. And I don't know how long this is going to go. But basically what I wanted to do is, instead of talk about news points and things like that, which is a little bit difficult to do by yourself. It's not. I mean, I could comment on just like shit that I see on Push Square. But I think that it would be better to kind of, when I'm doing these shows by myself, sometimes it's a little better to just sort of shoot the shit about a particular topic or something. It's a little bit easier for me to kind of roll with rather than just sit here and be like, hey, they might bring back Simpsons Hit and Run. Isn't that cool? Yeah. So anyway, what I want to talk about this week is games that are coming out in 2026 and what of those games I have interest in and what comments I have on them. And because I'm starting to get, I don't want to say overwhelmed, a little bit overwhelmed with everything that is happening this year with the game releases. And I kind of want to just sort of hash out a little bit of what I am interested in playing and kind of maybe make a roadmap for myself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a, let's see here. I'm going to make a list of games that I want to play with their release date and kind of make comments on which one and why. So, this is starting in March, by the way, starting today. So I'm not going to go back to stuff from February and January, which I guess I could do. I'm just kind of looking to see if there's any games in there. I guess there are some. There's Ride 6, High on Life 2, potentially Dragon Quest. Actually, I'm not even going to say Dragon Quest. I'm interested in that game, but I'm definitely not going to pay full price for it. So yeah, let's ignore everything before today. So one caveat, I don't want to say caveat, one game that I will mention that I am interested in is Marathon, which happened last week. And that came out on March 13th, 12th? And it's not just because I was just talking about it with Big Box or whatever, and all the things that I mentioned before. All that stuff is true. I'm not probably going to play this, but I am going to keep an eye on it keep an eye on it in case they either have it on mega discount, which is possible. I might just buy it just to try it out. Or if they introduce new modes that are more amenable to my gaming preferences. So that came out, I believe, March 12th. Marathon release date. March 5th. Oh, wow. So it's been out for over a week. March 5th. My apologies. So I'm just on the release date list for 2026 on Push Square's website. The reason why I use Push Square, obviously, we're big fans of theirs, but the biggest thing is that all of these games are on PlayStation. If you look, like I was looking at the GameStop one. The GameStop one is like every game, including PC and stuff. So the list is just extensive and it's really hard to navigate. So I'm just going to kind of run through this and see if there's anything in here that sticks out to me. In March, the only thing here that I want to say really, really sticks out to me is Crimson Desert. And I could almost do a whole show topic just about this game because it looks amazing. It looks too good to be true. Open world fantasy action RPG. It's made by the developers of that MMORPG Black Desert. I think Pearl Abyss, I think is their name. And they decided they were going to do a sequel to Black Desert, but then they decided to do a single-player game instead, thus Crimson Desert. And it looked, from the moment we've seen gameplay of this thing, it looks unbelievable. Kind of like early stages of Cyberpunk, stuff like that, where we're seeing the game and we're like, this looks really amazing, and I almost can't believe it. But apparently the game's legit, and it comes out this week on the 19th, and a lot of the previews and all of the review copies, to my knowledge, are all PC. And so everyone's like, is this game going to run like ass on console? Because, again, looks absolutely immaculate. Well, just today or yesterday, I'm recording on the 15th, so either today the 15th or yesterday the 14th, Digital Foundry released a 30-minute long deep dive into the gameplay of Crimson Desert on the PS5 Pro. And it looks, now granted, this is on YouTube, it's all compressed and shit. It looks unbelievable. It looks like it's running, when I'm watching the game, like watching the environments and everything, it just, I've made comments about this before with games like KCD2, or maybe even to a lesser extent something like The Witcher 3 or something like that. But I sometimes almost get emotional when natural environments look really good in video games. And I can't explain it, but there's something about it that just like, it strikes me right in the middle of my chest, and I don't really understand it. It's not like a story thing or anything like that. It's just like when I see like a natural environment in a game and it looks really good, it looks realistic, it I don't know. It resonates with me. So this game looks wow. It looks amazing. It looks so fucking good. I can't even believe it. And the more that I see about this game, the more I'm like, I gotta wait for reviews and shit, and I gotta see what's going on with this. How long is it gonna be? Blah blah blah. I know it's gonna be a really long game. It's gonna be a huge game. Whatever. But this game is very rapidly becoming that's the next game I'm gonna play after Resident Evil. And I hope that I'm correct and that this game is as good as it looks, I highly recommend everybody look at the Digital Foundry. There's a Digital Foundry video called Crimson Desert on PlayStation 5 Pro, the Digital Foundry Deep Dive. And it's literally just a 29-minute video of them playing the game on PS5 Pro. It's cut, it's edited. It's not like it's just a continuous gameplay for 30 minutes. But they're just talking about the quality of the game and how well it runs and what they think of it and showing you footage. And it looks great. And I paused on this graphic. There's a graphic on the screen here. And maybe I can figure out a way to show it on, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to screw up anything with OBS, but they have a graphic that I think was released by not Digital Foundry, Pearl Abyss, that shows the expected performance or target performance for the consoles. And they show for PlayStation 5, they have 3 modes: performance, balance, and quality. Performance is 1080p, 60 FPS VSync, 60 FPS VRR, 60 plus FPS VRR with ray tracing on low. Balanced is upscaled 4K from, I think it's 1280p, and 40 FPS VSync, ray tracing low. Then they have quality mode, which is upscaled 4K from 1440p, 30 FPS VSync, ray tracing high. So even on PS5 base console, they are targeting 30 frames with ray tracing on high at an upscaled 4K on base PlayStation 5. That's pretty impressive considering how amazing this game looks. And this is running on I think a proprietary engine that Pearl Abyss made themselves, not Unreal Engine or anything like that. So maybe they have the ability to sort of optimize it a little bit better, because there's so many horror stories about the the Unreal Engine 5 sort of performance, generally speaking, not even just on consoles, but all over the place. On PS5 Pro, if you're lucky enough to have one, performance mode gets an upscaled 4K, 60 FPS with ray tracing on high. So basically, quality mode on PS5, PlayStation 5 base, is equivalent to the performance mode on PlayStation 5 Pro, but it's also running at 60 frames a second, which is awesome. So guys like LJ, everyone out there with a PS5 Pro, this game looks like it's going to perform very well for you. Balanced is an upscaled 4K from 1440, and it's going to be 40 frames a second, 48 plus with VRR and ray tracing on high. And I'm sorry, so the difference between balanced and performance is that performance is upscaled from 1080p and balance is upscaled from 1440. So you will see some differences because of the upscaling. The quality will be a little bit better on the balanced mode than the performance mode. That's why the frame rate is a little less. And then quality mode, you get a native 4K, 30 FPS VSync with ultra high ray tracing. So that game is probably going to look molto bene, as they say in Italy, which means very good. So yeah, this game, I highly recommend people go watch this video. Like, just watching this video, I don't even fucking know anything about the game other than like what I see in this video and sort of the environments they're showing and stuff. And I am absolutely flummoxed by how good it looks. Everything from the trees to the water to the way that like the groups of people kind of walk and move around to the way that like the enemies react. Everything just looks spectacular in this game. And if all of it is true, you can totally understand why this game has taken so long to come out. And it's releasing in 4 days. So super stoked about this. I can't wait to read the reviews on it. And this, very likely, I'm going to put it in my list as for now, okay, let me caveat this. Anything that I have on here is pending review. So if I say this game is a must play, it means that if all the reviews pan out and this game is as incredible as it looks, it's something that I gotta play. So let's go back to our list here. That's Crimson Desert. And honestly, part of the reason why I didn't want to do the news today is because literally full half the news points that I've seen for this week are about Crimson Desert coming out this week. So I'm like, well, fuck, why don't I just talk about Crimson Desert? And then after I talk about Crimson Desert and my excitement for it, maybe I'll just sort of talk about other games that are coming out in the year. And we'll just go with that. So the only other game from technically there's two, but the only other game in March that I'm really excited about is on March 26th. There is Life is Strange Reunion comes out. Now I didn't play Double Exposure, which is the which is like so after the first season they did a bunch of other stuff not around Max and Chloe. But then they did Double Exposure, which goes back to the Max character, which is the main character from the first series. And I didn't play that. I don't know anything about it. But now they're doing Life is Strange Reunion, which is bringing Chloe back as well. So you've got Max and Chloe back. And I really loved the relationship between those two characters in that first season. So I am interested in this. Again, we've talked about it ad nauseum on the show. Like, I've sort of fallen off of games like this. The closest comparison that I've had recently is Dispatch, and that game is just different. There's something just so fucking incredible, but it's the highest quality version of that type of game I've ever seen. And so it might take me a minute to get back into doing this, but I think I might want to play it. The only other game in March is South of Midnight, and that's mainly just kind of, I'm curious because that's another Xbox first party game that is being released on PlayStation, and I thought it looked really cool. It has this very sort of stop motion kind of art style to it, or animation style to it, and it's about like almost like Bayou South black culture, which is always really interesting to me. But from what I understand, the story in the presentation of the game is really good, but the gameplay is not very fun. So I'm not sure that I'm going to play this, but if the game comes out and it's cheap enough, I might pick it up for a sale for $5 or $10 and play it just to kind of get my experience. So yeah, that's March of 2026. So let's move into April. The only game, looking down through here, there are four games in here that I'm interested in. 3 games. We'll just say 3 games. We'll focus on the 3 big ones. So, Mouse PI for Hire. This game looks so cool. I don't know if it's going to be very good. It's got this, it looks like, Steamboat Willie style graphics and animation, but it's like a first-person shooter kind of detective game, and it looks really cool. I highly recommend anyone who is interested in what I'm saying, just go look up video, like gameplay of it. It looks really, really interesting. It's all in black and white. Looks very cool. I don't know if I'm going to play it right away. It depends on sort of how much it is. It depends on how long the game is. Because if I jump into Crimson Desert, chances are mid-April I'm still going to be playing that game. So I don't know if I'm going to want to break just to play Mouse PI for Hire. I don't know. Same goes for the next game, but I'm much more interested in it, is Pragmata, which comes out on April 17th. Pragmata, we've talked about quite a bit on the show because they just recently released a demo for it on PSN. Sorry, I'm freaking brain farts over here. And it's very cool. It's like a sci-fi third-person shooter. You're like stranded on the moon with like this robot little girl that you're trying to escape with, and you have to fight these robot enemies, but in order to break their armor, as it were, leave them vulnerable. You have to like hack them on the fly, and then like as part of combat, and it's like with these button sequences, and it's very, very unique, and I am really interested to see how that game pans out, and it is definitely something that I could see myself being interested in playing. The only other game and the biggest game on the list for April is on April 30th, Saros comes out. That's a new game from Housemarque, the team that did Super Stardust. They did Returnal. They did what was the launch game for Resogun? They did Resogun, which I platinum Resogun? I think I did. When PS4 launched and Resogun came out, I got so addicted to that game. People who have been listening to the podcast for a long time might remember me talking about this, but there was a point in time where I was so addicted to Resogun that I was ranked like on either, I can't remember which difficulty, easy or medium, one of the two, because I was playing all of the difficulties, trying to get all the different trophies and everything like that. And I was so addicted to that game at one point where there was a point where I was ranked like 19th in the world on that difficulty. I think it was easy is what I was on. And I get it. It's easy mode, but each difficulty has their own rank. So you would think like if someone was spamming the ranking system, they would do it on easy and they would be able to get super high scores. And there were a couple people at the top that had like unattainable scores, which almost seemed like they were hacking. But the fact that I was that close on that was pretty interesting, even though, it was right after launch. Then they did like after an update, they did a leaderboard wipe, and it like totally wiped away my score, which is, it is what it is. But anyway, Saros is the new game, a lot more in line with Returnal than Resogun, but it looks awesome. It looks like Resogun again. New color palette, more story, more character progression mechanics, so you're not losing so much on every run. It looks like an iteration on Returnal that people are really going to like, I think. Okay, now we're into May, and I'm just going to start ripping here because I've been recording for 52 minutes, and by myself, that's a pretty long time. So I'm going to start ripping through here. And maybe what I'll do is I'll just do May and June, and then we'll talk about, if I do another podcast by myself, maybe we'll talk about the second half of the year, what's coming, and what I'm excited about there. So for May, and I keep forgetting about this game, but let me see here, mixtape. This game... Oh, yeah. Mixtape. I don't think so. So, on May 12th, the Directive 8020 comes out, which I guess is connected to the Dark Pictures anthology. And I have never played a Dark Pictures game. Fred really likes them. But this is like Dark Pictures in space, but it also looks really good. And so, I'm cautiously optimistic that this game might actually be really cool. But because it's a Dark Pictures game and I'm not really big on these types of experiences, I am going to need to see some reviews. But I'm cautiously optimistic that this game is going to be a leap forward for Supermassive. I think this is Supermassive developing this? Let's look. Yes. It's going to be a leap forward for them, and it's going to be something that is totally worth playing. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully everybody else is too. We can now move to what is arguably one of the biggest releases of the year on May 27th with 007 First Light. This game looks unbelievable. And I don't say that in the same way that I say that Crimson Desert looks unbelievable. Crimson Desert, like, literally looks unbelievable. 007 First Light looks unbelievable in the way that a new Uncharted game looks unbelievable. We believe it. we've seen it before. It really looks like it's going to be a great game. And so I am really excited for this. It looks like a 007 game meets, and the reason why I say Uncharted is because it does have a lot of that Uncharted spirit kind of to it, what it looks like. I remember I haven't watched a lot of gameplay on it because I kind of just want to roll into this game. I might watch a little bit more before it comes out. But it seems like there's a lot of stuff you can do. You have like gadgets you can use for sneaking around, and maybe there's a little bit of like environmental, I don't say environmental storytelling, but like environmental interaction that allows you to sort of get through encounters and things like that, which are arguably some of the most fun things about my experience so far with Baldur's Gate, where it's like you get into an area and it's like, oh, what do I do? It's like, oh, that enemy is standing by an edge. Let me just shove them into a cliff, and I don't have to fight them because they just die getting pushed off a cliff. Or let me say something along the lines of like, I can shoot a brazier and it drops like fire on top of the enemies or whatever. So I love the idea of them bringing that into a game like this. And the game looks great. It looks like it's a young Bond, but a little bit more on the lines of like the chaotic Bond, maybe a little bit more similar to a early, Casino Royale kind of Bond. Although I don't know if I might be talking out of my ass because I haven't seen those movies in a long time. But a little less buttoned up, a little less like Sean Connery kind of Bond, a little younger, and I'm really interested to see how good that game is. IO Interactive, they did Hitman. Everyone loves Hitman. Everyone's probably going to love 007 First Light. We'll have to see. Looks great. June, I guess I don't have anything for June. Maybe The Adventures of Elliot, but that is a like a JRPG style game, and I just don't know. I'm so hit or miss with these types of games. A lot of them I really do like, but I think it's like a 2D, 3D kind of JRPG style game, sort of along the veins of an Octopath or something like that, visually anyway. If I remember correctly, I don't have the what am I saying? I don't have any gameplay footage in front of me or whatever, but it's just something it comes out on June 18th. I'm sure that there's going to be other games that might slot in June. I guess I could probably, let's see here. Let's just rip through the rest of the year. Let's just rip through it. There's not a whole lot here. It's not as now granted, I'm only talking about confirmed games where we know when they're being released. So there's obviously games in here that I'm not gonna talk about because I don't know the release date for them yet, like Mina the Hollower and stuff like that, which look very good. So we're gonna jump forward to August, and we're gonna look at the Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 2. Now, the only reason why I'm excited about this game is because I've never played Metal Gear Solid 4. I've at least played a little bit of all of the mainline Metal Gear games, except for 4. I've never played 4. And I've never beaten 3, but I've played a lot of 1. I've played a lot of 2. I've played a bit of 3. Never played 4 at all. Played Rising Revengeance a little bit. Played all of 5 and Ground Zeroes. So I'm kind of like a Metal Gear casual, I guess you could say. But I've always been interested in Metal Gear 4 because it was so, I think, divisive for a lot of people. Maybe some people think maybe Kojima got a little crazy with the cutscene, like super long cutscenes and all this crazy shit. But it was a huge game on PS3, and that was like right before I got my PS3, so I never had a chance to actually play it. I wasn't there as part of the zeitgeist, so I have no idea. But this game is releasing with, I guess, Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, and Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, which is the PSP title. But I think it's the PS4 release of the PSP title. So it should be pretty interesting. I don't know if this is something that I'm going to buy when it comes out. I didn't get the first collection. I haven't even played the remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which looks very good. I should probably get to that at some point. But I'm very interested in what Kojima does, whether or not I actually play it. So I would like to, at some point, get to this, at very least to play Metal Gear Solid 4, but that might be like a wait for a sale kind of thing for me. Okay, jumping forward, in September, we've got 2 games that really strike my fancy. You've got Phantom Blade Zero, which is a really cool looking, I think it's made by a Chinese developer, but I could be wrong about that, sort of Asian melee sword samurai in quotes kind of game. I remember when this game was first announced, people were like, what the fuck is this? The combat looks too good. It looks really amazing. I don't know what's going on. There's no way this is real, or what is this game? Or we've never heard of this developer, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm interested in what this game is. I think this is the game where the developer said, no, it's not a Souls-like, it's not a Souls-like, it's not a Souls-like, because they don't want to scare people away. But there are a lot of games that have Souls-like difficulty and stuff that don't call themselves Souls-like, but that's sort of in the eye of the beholder, I think. It's not necessarily in the eye of the creator. So they may say it's not a Souls-like, but if to me it feels like a Souls-like in the way the combat works and how difficult it is, I'm going to feel like it's a Souls-like and I might not be interested in it. However, I am still intrigued. We'll see how this game, more information when it comes out, how it is, how it plays, how it reviews, everything like that. And we'll see. I might be very interested in it, but I won't know. That game doesn't come out till September 9th. It's a long way away. We'll have to see. We basically have to get through summer and dive back into the gnawing fall and winter before we get to these games coming up here. And then the next game, the only other game in September that's dated right now that anyone has to worry about is Marvel's Wolverine, which comes out September 15th. This is an obvious gonna play for me day one likely, but it's hard to say when you don't know. I mean, this game could be an absolute catastrophe, but it is Insomniac, so I have no doubt that this game is going to be incredible, and there's no reason for me to believe that it's going to be bad in any way. And the stuff that we've seen so far with that recent trailer that was like super gory and everything tells me that this game is probably everything anyone has ever wanted in a Wolverine game. And so I'm excited to see how that plays out. But I don't have really anything else to say about Marvel's Wolverine. It's kind of like Spider-Man. Like, it is what it is. The game's going to be awesome. I'll play it when it comes out. But I don't really have a whole lot to say about it otherwise. And the only other game, really, that's dated that we need to discuss is in November, specifically November 19th, GTA 6 comes out. This is a game that literally everyone in the world is going to play. So there really doesn't need to be too much talk about this. It looks unbelievable. I can't wait to see how it actually turns out in terms of the way it looks, the way it plays, everything. The trailers, kind of like I was talking about with Crimson Desert, they feel almost too good to be true. But I don't believe that's the case with this, because think about Red Dead Redemption 2. Think about Grand Theft Auto 5. Both of those games, when they come out, they were like too good to be true. But they were true. Red Dead Redemption 2 is still one of the most impressive games ever made. And that was, how many years ago that game came out? 6, 7 years ago at this point? So we have every reason to believe that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be amazing. Am I going to like it as much as Red Dead? Probably not, because I don't have as much, I'm not attracted as much to like the modern day aesthetic as I am to a little bit more of the Western aesthetic, which has a little bit more of a fantasy element to it. However, I do still really like Grand Theft Auto. I love just driving around the world and jumping shit and getting into crazy scenarios, and the stories are always really interesting, and the characters are always wild, and this is going to be in Florida, and it seems like it's going to have a very big sort of like cheeky Florida man kind of component to it, which is really interesting. So that said, I mean, there really isn't a whole lot to say else about Grand Theft Auto 6. I mean, what do we need to know? I mean, we haven't seen any gameplay of it yet. I imagine we'll see something at some point, but until then, everyone's just right to assume this game's going to be incredible, and whenever it comes out, we'll play it. I guess that's really the end of it, because everyone's going to play this game, myself included. And we'll see where I'm at whenever it comes out, but there's not, as of right now, there's a lot of tentative stuff for this year, right? You've got Ace Combat 8. You've got, I'm just like looking here, Castlevania, Belmont's Curse. You've got City Skylines 2. You've got Fable. You've got Forza Horizon 6. You've got Halo Campaign Evolved, which has not been, that is a game that I'm really looking forward to. That hasn't been announced, a release date hasn't been announced yet. You've got Kenna, Scars of Cosmora, Lords of the Fallen 2. You've got Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra, which is supposedly going to come out this year. That's the Amy Hennig game. Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Ontos. There's all kinds of games. Silent Hill Townfall, which we just learned about. Star Wars Galactic Racer. I apologize, I'm just like listing things here, but like all these games that I'm talking about. We've got Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun 2, which I haven't beat the first one yet, but it was really good. What I played. It's like The Wolf Among Us 2? What? It's coming out this year, apparently. So, that said, there's 1,000,001 games coming out in 2026 that I think everybody should be excited about. And even though the dated games I've only got that I'm definitely interested in, let's see how many I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not counting Marathon because it already came out. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I've got 11 dated games here that I'm interested in that are supposedly coming out this year that are dated. And I probably listed 11 more that are slated for 26 that haven't been dated yet. So way more games than I'm actually going to be able to play this year. I'm good for 1 to 3 games a month, depending on the scope of the games that I'm playing. If I play something like Crimson Desert, that game might literally take me 2 months to play. But if I continue to play games like, what am I playing? Resident Evil. You know, I could play 2 or 3 games a month if I'm playing games like that. If we're looking down this list, can't imagine Mouse PI for Hire is very long. The jury's out on Pragmata, but it's probably not that long. Dark Pictures 8020, Directive 8020, that's not going to be that long. I would imagine 007 First Light's probably going to be 20 hours or so. Phantom Blade Zero, who knows? Marvel's Wolverine's probably going to be the 30-hour range, given Insomniac's track record. So there's some games on here that are a little bit shorter. Might be able to double up on some of these. But for now, let's just say that it is a packed and stacked year for the PlayStation releases. And I am definitely looking forward to what the industry has to offer as far as games go. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just completely zoned out for a second. It's time for me to go. I've got other stuff to do. It's Sunday afternoon. I got to get this uploaded. I've been going for an hour and 10 minutes here by myself, holding down the fort. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. It was a little bit of a sideshow. I didn't cover any news. But to be honest with you, if the news isn't interesting, you guys might be interested. If you guys have a news point that you definitely want us to talk about, let us know. But if it's a news point that we're not particularly interested in, that comes through the microphone. And so we don't like to talk about news points that we're not really that interested in, because we don't want to generate a boring podcast experience for you guys. So I apologize if people wanted to hear about some specific news point this week. I didn't see anything other than a bunch of Crimson Desert news and some other random stuff about the industry. So I thought I would run through the games that are coming out in 2026, see what everybody liked, or see what I liked and what I'd be interested in playing. And so I guess that concludes this episode 416 of PS This Is Awesome. And I hope that everybody enjoyed it. Hope that everybody likes and subscribes to the podcast on YouTube. Join the Patreon. Get yourself a sticker. Take that dollar you found in your couch. Give it to us. And we'll use it to maybe fund a little bit more of the project. We don't do anything with the money that we get on Patreon. We don't make that much, so we don't really do anything with it. And if we do something with it, it's just to like buy the stickers to give the people that join the Patreon, or if we do have a little bit extra, use it for some subscription fees or whatever. So we're not making any money on this, but we do appreciate it if you listen, whether or not you're a part of the Patreon. Write in if you want to talk, and we'll talk about you on the show. And hopefully next week we'll have a guest on, whether it's Fred coming back or LJ or somebody else, and we'll go from there. Otherwise, you might just have me all by myself all over again. Maybe I'll come up with a new game next week. Maybe I'll play Hangman, and I'll put it in the OBS while I'm recording. Maybe I'll do a ranking. Maybe I'll do an episode where I rank like my favorite Resident Evil games, or maybe I'll do a ranking of something else, or maybe I'll just draw pictures in Paint and record it and as part of the podcast. Maybe I'll try to draw my favorite PlayStation characters. I don't know. Could be anything. Could be crazy. If I'm by myself, I've got no rules, I have no boss, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. So, like Taco Master, Tabletop Tanks, and Tactics Oberg Reborn. P.S. This is awesome.